My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I am here with the beautiful Naomi Morad. So she is a psychosomatic practitioner with over 29 years of experience. Oh, 23. I'm adding on extra years already. She specializes in helping you navigate your way back to the essence of your being, regaining energy, clarity, and insight. Naomi gently guides you through a process of healing and releasing deeply rooted patterns and beliefs. Naomi is trauma informed and specializes in brain spotting, parts work, inner child healing, guided meditation, and body talk dance therapy. These methods allow you to reconnect to your inner wisdom, regulate emotions, allowing you for deep and lasting healing. And with a deep understanding of how trauma affects the body, mind, and soul, she guides you towards healing the root cause of your pain. From her experience, the more we heal, the more at peace, loving, and kind we become with ourselves and the people around us. So a big welcome to the show, Naomi.
Hello, Catherine.
It's always nice hearing all the things that you do to help people heal, isn't it?
Wow, that's a long list.
Yes, and it's you. It's you. Uh, so tell us a bit about how you were pulled to all these different practices. I'm assuming you just kept following breadcrumbs, but tell us a bit about your journey to becoming who you are today.
Wow. How did I come to all these practices? I went through a tremendous amount of trauma growing up, a lot of sexual abuse on all different levels. And I had completely dissociated from what had happened to me until I was 27. By the time I was 27, I was severely depressed already for many years. I already had two children, was happily married, and still couldn't figure out why I was so depressed.
Mm.
And eventually, I started therapy, and I started out with psychosomatic therapy through the body, awakening the trauma and everything that was sitting basically in my cells. And through that kind of work, I started dealing with my depression, and I learned what gets me depressed and what triggers my depression. And as I learned that and really healed from my depression, next thing was the memories of my past started to surface. And
Mm.
I don't remember exactly around what time that was. I think it was before I started my own healing work. I had a calling to help people heal, but I had no idea how. And I knew
Yeah.
that I wasn't called to the traditional path of psychology. And after I started my own healing work, I said, okay, I will study to become a psychosomatic therapist. And so I studied with a training that was 3 years long, and where I really learned how to listen and work with the body, awakening trauma. And then after these 3 years, I said, okay, this was interesting. I learned a lot, but I still don't feel I have enough tools to help people heal with everything they come with. So I'm very good with awakening the trauma, but I don't have enough tools to heal. And that's basically what kept me going, like
Yeah.
finding my own healing, but also I had a vision that I want to be able to work with anyone who comes into my office. Doesn't matter what their story is, what they went through in life, that I have all the tools that I need in order to support that person. And that's how I continued studying and studying and studying. And the truth is, I'm always studying because I love it.
But I love how you said too, because so often, like you said, the trauma gets awakened, but then what do you do with it all? Like what do you do to move through it? And I love all the range of practices that you do, because it is like that. And I imagine there's some level of intuition that you would have too, where you're working with somebody, yeah, and you just go, "Huh, I think we need to do a different approach, right? Or I think we need to pick something else out of the toolbox." And I so relate to that, Naomi, because even when I was a speech language pathologist, I would go do all these different trainings, nothing to do with speech pathology per se, but I would go learn all these different things because I was like, I want to understand more about just more than just what's happening in front of me, and more than just the individual that's plopped in front of me. Because, in traditional training, it's like, oh, all we work on is speech. But these families come with you with more things, like you said. It's like you are like there's all these things, extra things you need to pull out of the toolbox to keep working, and so that you can be a more rounded and holistic practitioner and serve them how you need to serve them.
Absolutely. And I think everybody, yeah, like we all can learn the same things, but everyone will apply them differently. Like you said, we have
Exactly.
our intuition and we will work to blend the different things the way it suits us and makes sense to our nervous system. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I love too that you do inner child work because there's always a little child in us screaming out for attention, right?
there is, there is absolutely.
I'm sure when you unpack that one, you're like, oh, there's so much, especially with all the trauma you went through in your childhood. I could imagine the little Naomi in you was just like, I really need some attention right now.
Yes. And the truth is we all do. What I've learned through the years in my work is that basically any issue that we deal with today, whether it's procrastination or we feel sad or were stuck in relationship, not being able to build a healthy relationship, doesn't matter. Fears, anxieties, they all go back to our childhood trauma. When
It's
we
so true.
release that younger part that is still frozen in trauma, because they're like time capsules that are frozen in time when we go through trauma. And we hold that pain that we feel today is actually belongs to a 2-year old, 1-year old, 5-year old, 7-year old, younger part of us. And when we help these younger parts heal, it's amazing how immediately there's like energy released in our lives today. And the issue that we were dealing with doesn't trigger us anymore. It vanishes.
Yeah, I love that. And even, I've been doing work, like been doing all these different meditations, and one of them was we're talking like money stories, right? Money stories come up, and it can be, especially from experiences as childhood. And I was talking with the client about it. She goes, for me it was like we always went for hikes, but the little me just wanted an ice cream, and then the parents were like, no, no, we brought our own food. She's like, but I just wanted the ice cream, that's all I wanted. And I was like, yeah, I get that. Like for me, it was always like getting told you have to work hard for your money, and money doesn't grow on trees. And actually, money kind of does grow on trees, but that's like another whole other thing, right? And it's just when you start to pull apart all those belief systems, exactly like you said, they can all be rooted back in things that happened in your childhood. And I like that you use that description too. They're like frozen capsules because they're frozen in time, and it's just stuck in your system until you, I guess, shine a light on it and help it melt and thaw out so it can shift and move how it's supposed to.
Yeah, it's shining a light on it and it's becoming witness to what happened.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
like going back and really becoming witness because that younger part feels very lonely, feels unseen,
exactly.
unheard. And when we become witness to our own younger parts and really are present, that's when everything begins to shift and transform.
Yeah, which it is magic like that. Everyone's like, "What do you mean?" And it's funny. I met this person from, so she was somewhere from Eastern Europe, and she said to me, I still remember. She goes, the therapy system here is so backwards. And I said, in Australia. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, they can't tell you how long therapy will be, all these sort of things. She goes, we walk into a therapy session in this place in Eastern Europe she was from, we have to read a book. And it's about discovering your inner child. And I was like, really? She goes, that's the first thing they give us, a book about learning about your inner child. And then they go, this is how long therapy will take, as long as you do all the work. And I was like, what? Like it was such a contrast to what kind of happens here, probably in America too, right? And this book you can just get for free. Like I got it, I don't know, the PDF from somewhere for free as well. And it was so fascinating because it talked about even if you had a happy childhood, there can still be things in there that still trigger you. And sometimes it's like the extreme happy childhoods are the ones that were actually the most triggering because you just pretended everything was okay and it's all okay. It's all okay. And it wasn't.
It's true. And for these people, even there's a lot of guilt often around like feeling bad because everything was so great in their childhood. Why would they have any issues? And it's so true.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's beautiful that they give them a book about the inner child. I
Yes.
mean, I wish they did that everywhere in the world because that's really where the healing is. Everything else is just talking around the issue and we're not doing the real work.
Exactly. And I guess that's too, so often we get stuck in our stories and we get stuck in the loop. And instead of asking those, compassionate inquiry questions like, why is this happening for me? And what is it teaching me? And looking at the deeper reason as to why you're stuck in those loop, often we do get stuck in the story. And that's why it's so important to realize you're stuck in the story, first of all, and then go find support to pull you out of the story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we're stuck in the story, it's really like you say, we're in a loop. We can't get out.
Yeah. And you can't see it all the time either. Yeah.
We keep
No.
repeating the
And you're not
same
meant
thing
to.
over again.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not meant to. We're not meant to walk through this world alone. That's why we're meant to connect with other people and go forward. Yeah.
I truly believe that too. You know, some people say, "Oh, but I'm doing my own work. I'm doing my own thing," and which is great. I'm doing my own work, but until today, I'm always also getting support from the outside, even though I've been doing this for so many years. But there's always something that happens when someone else is present and holding the energy for you. We can go like another level deeper, or that's just the
Yeah. Yeah.
nervous system
Even I,
can relate on a different level when we don't do it alone. And again, it's
exactly. And even,
alone in this because in all of our traumatic experiences, we've been alone. That was the
yeah.
feeling. Not alone, obviously, there was someone who caused the trauma, but the experience was very lonely. So when we regulate our nervous system while somebody else is present, a safe person holding the energy for us, we can really heal on a so much deeper level.
And it always makes me think of Naomi, what you're talking about is that healers need healing too, because so
Mm,
often we neglect our own healing because we can think we can do it ourselves, but we can't. So it's really important to remember.
really important to remember. And it's like
Yeah,
there's shame, I feel, for people, especially healers, that they still seek help outside because there's that belief that like we have to be perfect because we take care of other people. But not nobody's perfect. We're always on a journey. We're always learning. We're always growing. We're always healing every single day.
exactly, exactly. And for anyone who thinks that if you start a healing journey, that it's just going to be, oh yeah, once I'm done, it's done. Oh, no, 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 no. There are so many layers, like layers upon layers upon layers. And then when you think you're done with an issue, there'll be cobwebs that you have to go back and clean up too.
Totally. When I first started my journey, I was like so overwhelmed because it was so big and I had so many years of trauma behind me. And in order to cope, I always said, okay, once I'll have taken care of this, I'll be good. And I would tell my husband, I would say to him, um, once I have dealt with this, I'm going to be fine. And then I'm going to be done. And he would always tell me, don't say that, just be in it. And I needed to put these milestones down in order to be able to cope with what was going on, because I felt so overwhelmed. It took me
Mm.
many years. I understood, okay, it's an ongoing journey and it's okay that it's that way. It doesn't have to end after I have dealt with X. But yes.
Well, especially when you're recovering from such a big trauma, right? The big T ones. It does take years and years and years to come back and to feel that safety and to feel anchored again in yourself. But it's more just that root chakra, that safety that once it's compromised, it's really takes a lot of work to build it back and then rebalance everything else around it.
True. It's true.
So I have this question that's been niggling. What is brain spotting? I've never heard of that before. What is this?
Brain spotting is, have you heard of EMDR?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so people are more familiar usually with EMDR, which is a way to process trauma through your eyes. And brain spotting actually derived from the EMDR. And what it does is um, it helps to bring your nervous system from dysregulation to regulation. And the way we do it is through the eyes. So now, as we're talking, um, sometimes you'll find yourself looking in a certain direction as you're explaining something, as you're talking about something. And it's not because you're avoiding eye contact, it's because you're thinking of something, your eyes automatically gaze in a certain direction. Now, this happens because where you look affects the way you feel. So, as I look in that direction, let's say I'm just now, as I'm talking to you, I'm looking to my upper right, it helps me process everything that is connected to brain spotting and how to explain brain spotting, and all the emotions and thoughts that are connected to that. So, my eyes are connected to my subcortical brain, where my emotions are stored and my all of my memories and experiences, and we connect also to what is the feeling, felt sense in the body. As we connect these 3 points, that's where we start processing from our subconscious mind. That means I'm fully awake, but I'm bypassing my thinking mind and I'm starting to process everything that is related to the issue that I'm dealing with. So if I'm processing pain, anger, a situation that really upset me in life, I will start with that. I will see where the eye position is, where the felt body sense is, and I will process from there. And everything that is connected, which often like winds back to early childhood trauma memories, the subconscious starts to make those connections. And it's amazing. It's like an unwinding and very deeply healing process.
Yeah, and anyone curious, we've it's funny because just a few episodes ago we were talking about EMDR, and it's like the whole look up, look down, look up, look down, and depending where you need to look. But it just fascinates me how much our eye movement is connected to the subconscious and how it programs things and lets things release at the same time.
Yeah, very, very deeply connected. And the I would really say, because I used to be a patient of EMDR in the past and I never had a calling to study it. It always seemed very complicated to me. And
Yeah,
somehow didn't connect all the way. And we actually have, when I came across brain spotting, I was like, okay, I must learn this. It's a very simple technique and goes so deep and so
yeah.
effective. And like after every session, really, my clients feel a release, a change, a shift. So that's the beauty,
Have
definitely.
you found that there's a certain practice that you'll always find that at some point you'll have to reach into your basket to get out for your clients?
I really use like a combination of brain spotting, parts work, and the inner child work. It like they very beautifully weave into each other. But brain spotting and parts work will be really something I will always use, and the inner child work in most sessions that will
Yeah,
come up as well. Always depends on where a person is and what they need and how deep they're ready to go, that kind of stuff. Like the younger parts show up organically, or sometimes you guide them there, but brain spotting and parts work will really be part of every session.
yeah, which is so beautiful because, it's when it's just such a different perspective because, when we talk about talking therapy, a lot of people don't realize when you go to talk therapy, every time you talk about it, you're reactivating the trauma. you're reliving it again and again and again, and you're actually not shifting it. And that's why so often I've met a lot of people who say, but I've been to therapy and nothing's shifting. It's like, because you're not actually letting it go. Like you said, when that trauma had awakened in you at the very start, you didn't know how to actually then step out of that to release it. And um, I think it's so beautiful, Naomi, that you've brought together all these different offerings to support your clients that way, so that once the trauma is at the surface, then you can help release it, or at least take the energy charge around it, right? Because our wounds are always there. It's just how we react to it and how it shows up is what impacts our reactions and how we go through life.
Definitely, completely. And that it's really like that. In talk therapy, you keep just re-experiencing the same thing over and over again, but there's no change because you're you're not accessing the nervous system. It's just all from your prefrontal lobe, from your logical brain, and that logical part of our brain doesn't have access to the deeper layers. So yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And I teach, for me, I teach my clients, you have to go to your heart first, then your gut, then your head, because we've been so conditioned to go to the head first. But it's actually from our heart that we can make decisions more aligned with our soul and our intuition, and the beautiful thing is science is catching up, right? And they've shown that there's more receptors in your heart and your brain and your gut than there is in your brain to actually make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so often when we make decisions from our heart, when our gut and our heart actually know differently and we go with our minds, our brains, we end up making mistakes.
Or we regret, right? We're like, why did I do that? It's very rare. Yeah. But it's so rare you'll make a decision that's heart led and you'll regret it. It might be really scary because you think, what am I doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense, but at the same time, in your heart, that it is the right decision and you're making the next step you need to get to where you need to be. And then you go, okay, I understand now.
Totally, totally. It's the scariest thing often, and it doesn't make any sense in that moment, but we know in our heart that this is the right way.
Yeah,
Definitely. I can say
I
for myself, whenever I have not listened in the past, I was like, ouch. It was always a slap in my face afterwards.
Yes, yes. Or if you keep ignoring it, the roar just keeps getting louder and louder, to the point then your body starts to have this dis-ease, and it starts to shut down, because the more you ignore yourself, the more you're numbing yourself from what's happening. And that itself can be a trauma, not the big trauma, but it can be a little trauma because you're constantly ignoring what you actually want to do at like a soul level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would take that even deeper. That is probably that person's safe place to go from the mind instead of tune into the heart, because having to feel is often so scary for people, and they're so terrified just of the thought of having to feel, that it's so much safer to go with the mind. And I always say to people that when they're afraid to touch their pain, they're afraid to come for healing because they don't want to touch what's there. I say, you take it everywhere you go. You really take your pain into everything. You take it into breakfast, lunch, dinner, and into your relationships. You take it into work. It's constantly present and shows up in everything that we do. And
Yeah.
it's so much easier, even though it seems so scary, but it's so much easier to just actually face it. It's often not as bad as people think. And the healing and transformation that takes place is just life transforming and so
Yeah,
worthwhile.
yeah. Beautifully said. So beautifully said, Naomi. And as we start to finish up our time together, I ask everyone that comes on the show, if there's something you could heal or change in the world, what would it be?
Something could heal or change in the world. It would be the way that come through my lens, the way we approach trauma. And that it's not something like we spoke about that we process from the mind. But there's so many different ways to heal that go back into the heart, into the body. The inner child book. I love that in Eastern Europe that you had mentioned before. Like open up that door that it's okay to feel again, that it's okay to be present with what is, and understanding that it is possible to heal no matter what you went through in life. There's always a way to really deeply heal.
Yeah, so beautiful. And such a potent reminder as well for anyone listening to this thinking, but my trauma's too big. It might be big, but it just means you just have a bigger heart, I think sometimes too, because you're still there, you're still standing, you've had the courage to keep going despite how big it is. And if you can fit, if you're still feeling it, then you can actually feel through it to actually heal it too.
I love that way you put that. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And where can people find you, Naomi, if they want to come work with you or they want to connect with you? How can they come find you?
They can find me, easiest way to find me is through my website, even though I'm also on LinkedIn and on Facebook. My website is naomimorad.com. And through my website, you can send me a message. You can get all the information you want. And I usually start out with an intro call that is for free, where we just talk and get to know each other, see if we're a good fit, if for those who might be interested in working with me.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'll make sure to include all these details in the show notes as well, so that if anyone's listening and want to find Naomi, they can. I will also find the name of that inner child book because, why not? I'm not affiliated with this book, but I just found it really, really powerful because so many times I interview beautiful guests like yourself, and then they'll be like, hey, you should really read this book, or you should tune into this book, or you should check this out. Or if they have their own book, you can have your own book too. But, I think that's how that curiosity keeps fostering, right? Like when you're like, oh, maybe I should read that book too, and then just see what happens from there.
Yeah, I also want the information for that book. I'm really curious what that is.
Yeah, great. Well, I will make sure for everybody listening that will go in the show notes too. So if you're there going, what is this book they're talking about? It'll be in the show notes. And then you'll know, okay, this is this book. And it's really simple. I have to say, how they've structured it is really, really lovely and simple, which is what I resonated with too. So, but anyway, back to why we were here. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for joining me and sharing a bit about your journey, but also all the beautiful gifts and offerings that you have collated to help people reawaken that trauma so they can heal through it as well.
Thank you, Catherine. It was a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.